All right, we are live, and let me just do some refreshing to make sure that we are in the community. We are definitely live on Facebook. We are definitely live on YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn.
Oh wow, we got all the peoples today.
We're everywhere, everywheres.
All the
All right, here we
places.
go. Here's the link.
Awesome.
Here's the link to this one. I just got to add it to the event. Next, update. And
What's up, homies?
we are live.
Tell you what, today's been a tech day and a half, though. My goodness, I almost actually messaged you this morning, like, Scott, save me, but I figured it out. I figured it out on my own.
I wouldn't have been here anyway. So this morning, I hosted the first ever Imagine AI coffee meetup in person in New Jersey, and there were some issues as far as some people couldn't make it and whatnot for different reasons, but it was great. My brain is still going 100 miles an hour.
And, it's incredible you guys have people in person, though. What is that like? I miss it.
yeah. It's weird. It's weird sitting next to somebody and being like, wait, I could touch you. I'm not going to touch you. But I could touch you if I wanted to.
Well, I had my first in-person client meeting since pandemic yesterday, and it's old school. You go to shake hands, and I was like, "Oh, high five, no, elbow." My clients are looking at me like, "What is wrong with her?"
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna shake people's hands anyway, but I know some people don't want to, and it's weird. But so if I look at it like if somebody's gonna come at me with a handshake,
then you'll shake.
I'll shake their hand. But I won't initiate because I know some people are still uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
So Rachel Brenke.
What's up?
We are live talking I'm talking to you, but we are talking to the Imagine AI community worldwide. And so, first of all, I'm going to ask you to share a bunch of background on yourself.
Oh my goodness.
Obviously, I know who you are, but there might be some people watching this who don't know who you are. So can you share who you are?
Yes, of course. My name is Rachel Brenke. I run TheLawTog. I am a photographer and a lawyer for photographers. TheLawTog is the go-to legal resource, and it's really heavy focus on contracts, client issues, and copyright. So basically all the things that photographers face in the course of the photography business. We at TheLawTog, it's not just me, I'm in charge of it, but I have a wonderful team. We have a bunch of photographers that work with me. We have photographers who review, give feedback, do all sorts of things. So we're constantly improving the resource. But yeah, we are on the ground like all of you. We know exactly what you're going through. We have our community on Facebook. It's just a good old time. I much enjoy it. I think the big thing I will say here, so people don't click away, is legal's not that fun. Like, I understand that. If I didn't have to do it, I wouldn't do it either. Although I enjoy doing it for you guys, but for yourself, there's other things you would rather invest in, like marketing. You spend money on marketing, you see a direct return. You don't really see a direct return, but we're going to talk through a couple of things today, and you can kind of see how legal can help save you money. So investing in legal and doing all the right things, preventive. So we're not having to spend time, money, and energy away from our photography business to clean up issues later on.
Yeah. So first, I do want to say if you are watching on Facebook, whether the Facebook page or the Facebook group in the Imagine AI community, please go to chat.restream.io/FB. You see that on the screen. That way you are syncing Restream to Facebook, and if you comment to ask Rachel a question or just want to share something, like where you're watching from, please do that. That we can actually see your name instead of anonymous. So if you're watching on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, we can see your name automatically, but otherwise. And if you're going to ask a question to Rachel, please preface it with Q:, so we can actually see that it's a question and not just a random comment about something else. And as you just heard, Rachel did say, legal is not a fun topic for most people to talk about. For Rachel, it is. But today, we're actually not talking about legal specifically.
I'll sneak it in there. I got you.
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, but what you need to know about Rachel is, and I've known Rachel a long time at this point. Although she is an attorney, she is a business owner. She is has been a photographer as well, and she knows this industry inside and out. And so we chose a topic to talk about today that is near and dear to my heart, near and dear to her heart, because not only is she a business owner, a photographer, an attorney, she's a mom of many children.
500,000. I have 5 kids.
And yeah, she is a very busy woman, and so she has found ways to optimize her life, her business, her life, her work-life balance, all that different thing, all those topics. So we're actually talking today about the top 5 time sucks in photography businesses and what to do about it. And we might talk about more than 5. I came up with 5 that are right at the top of my head. She might have her own. We might see if some get snuck in there. Snuck, is that the right word? Snuck. And so this is gonna be a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, let me check the chat. So we got a Facebook user. It's anonymous. Says legal
Probably
is fun.
Kelly.
It could be Kelly.
I was going to ask you, Scott, what if anonymous comes in as anonymous? Is he like anonymous squared? No, I'm kidding.
Oh boy.
See, guys, I can be fun. I can be.
Yeah, you can be fun. Yeah. Anonymous. It is Kelly. See, it is Kelly. She just commented it is. All right.
If you guys don't know who Kelly is, she's my right hand at the TheLawTog. She's the real boss. A real boss. No, it's so funny that you gave the introduction of the business strategy, and we want to save time, money, and energy and all of that. I think one thing that I want to put up front before we get into these time sucks is that balance doesn't exist. Like, it's an ever-changing thing that you have to kind of take a look at. But I think even more so that if you're sitting there and you're feeling frustrated in your business, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling burnt out, like oftentimes just taking a step back and looking at kind of like, what are your life circumstances and where are your big time sucks? That is where the biggest pain points and frustration comes out, where you'll feel frustrated, you'll feel burnt out, and then, that creeps into all other areas, including our creative work, right? It will come out in your photography output. So I think it's important too. If you're sitting there not feeling burnout, wonderful. You are here, you're going to hear the top 5 things. You're going to be able to make a plan to help prevent it. But if you're sitting here completely overwhelmed, what I want you to do is write the notes down of what we talk about. I mean, actually, class is in session. I don't know why I did a gavel. Court's in session. I'm not been a judge. Maybe one day, we'll see. But
yeah, next year, 2023.
No, I don't even want to know what's going to happen next year. But anyhow, so take the notes down, and I want you to really commit to some time, like schedule out like an hour within the next week to really work and brainstorm based on the things that we talked about here. And as always, you can reach out to me. So even if you don't think about questions now, feel free to reach out. I'm easy to find on the interweb. So please, I encourage you. I love doing that. Probably more than the legal stuff. I love this more like applicable, application of efficiency.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you want to do your legal disclaimer before we dive in? Even though this isn't solely about law, I know you like to do that.
I love it. I am a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer unless you want me to be. So, I am United States based. I'll throw some things out here. A lot of the information, though, I'm used to teaching like this. If I slide something in, it could be applicable across the world, but make sure you always check it for your specific country. And then also, if you're in the U.S., your state and jurisdictions. But we're not getting that deep, I don't think. But
I don't think so. I know you like to do it. So.
I love it.
and you've got like your script basically down for that. It's so ingrained in your brain that you've got that down, so it comes out naturally.
I've done it so much I almost forget to do it anymore, but it is important. See, even the lawyer is not always a fan of having to check the box with the legal stuff.
So the first top time suck that I had on my list is social media and advertising. I mean, those are 2 separate things, but in some ways they overlap. So social media, you could go overboard with it, and you could spend your entire day on social media if you really wanted to. Advertising, I mean, the places you could begin are endless, and the directions you could go with it are endless. And again, you could find yourself in this rabbit hole and just keep going. So what sort of advice do you have as far as ways to not get sucked into the rabbit hole for social media or advertising that photographers can benefit from?
It's so funny because I've been testing out TikTok. So the LawTog
Mhm.
has a TikTok, and it's not just dancing. I'm giving like legit tips. But I sat
Maybe a little bit.
just a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to talk really fast because I only get like 60 seconds because I'm also
Right.
on Reels. So it's a thing. But I batch do my content creation. So a lot of what you guys see, I may change the shirt, but the hair is pretty much going to be the same. I have like a couple shirts, and I'll sit and record like 5-10 videos or whatever it is. Maybe you need to crank out blog posts, captions, batch processing, whether it's for social media creation, and we haven't even gotten to editing and all that stuff yet, obviously with the product that you guys have, amazing. But batching doing your social, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit on here, but batching doing your social. But I think even more important than that is trying not to serve and be on all the platforms. This is one thing, and I get it. I am one of those that is like, ooh, Clubhouse, ooh, Vine, ooh. I just want to check it out, because you also don't want to feel like you're left behind. You don't want to miss the boat on something. But getting back to simplistic basics of really marketing and thinking about, okay, who am I trying to serve? What am I serving them with? Like, what is my niche of photography? And you really drill it down. But more so, where are they? Where are the people that I'm trying to reach? And I think we have a tendency to look at it from our perspective. Where would we be? But we may not be serving us. And so with social media, if you have not gotten consistent content and good engagement and being able to keep up with it without feeling burnout, you should be focusing on more than one platform. 2 max, 3 if you are able to repurpose the content across of it and really effectively implement it. But other than that, you really don't need more than 1 or 2 platforms, because you're going to have your website, hopefully. You're also going to have your email marketing, hopefully. And really, the social media, I think, is almost a need now, but it's really hardcore press, I think. And maybe, Scott, you could correct me on this. I haven't seen photographer that posts and all of a sudden someone's like, okay, I'm going to book you right now, and they pay right now. There is still a gap between, hey, I'm interested in your photography. So you pull the client into your email or inbox, and then you cultivate the sale of getting them booked. So think of social media more as the hi, hello, hug, but not trying to hug all over the place. Pick like 1 or 2 platforms of where your people actually are.
So there are a few, select photographers, and I think it's very niche where this happens. But wedding photographers that are destination wedding photographers, and mostly, or like destination elopement, stuff like that, their clients are basically looking for photographers that travel, right? So in that case, Instagram does very well for them.
Yeah.
But for a photographer who's only in DC, only in New Jersey, or whatever, they're more likely to use it as a hug and then go to the website and learn more.
Right.
So I think it's very niche in that aspect. But I also want to add that aside from batch recording, batch creating, batch editing, and there's also scheduling. And I know you've used tools in the past, variety of different tools. I use different tools for scheduling. Scheduling has its advantages and disadvantages, of course, but you go to a tool like Buffer, right? And which now supports TikTok as well. And now I could post with the schedule to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to Twitter, to Instagram, to TikTok. Did I say? I don't know if I said Pinterest. I don't remember. To all these different places.
There's so many.
Yeah, right. So, sure, I might have to reply to comments and stuff like that, but in the initial push of it, I don't have to think about it as much as I would, on the fly.
I mean, I think my concern with that, though, is if you're someone that's already feeling strapped for time and you're pushing to all those platforms, you have to look at, you just said it, you're going to need to be able to do the engagement and the follow-up, be able to keep up with the algorithm. If you don't have the bandwidth to do that, then you're really just throwing spaghetti noodles out there and seeing what fits. But I get it, right? I actually was just having this conversation for like the TheLawTog stuff yesterday and this morning of, well, if I'm creating the content, I might as well push it all out there. But let's say, for example, between TikToks and Reels, we're not even going to get into the whole like copyright potential of like infringement for audio, but if I'm making tips, so it's just recording myself, I have to understand that I might be handicapping myself a little bit on TikTok if I'm wanting to have 60 seconds, because I can only have 60 seconds over on Reels, I think, or something like that. So you just have to see like what you're pushing out, or long captions on Instagram aren't going to meet the character limit on Twitter. So it's not just a copy and paste across the board.
Yeah.
They all have their own. Every social media platform is selfish, and I don't necessarily mean it negatively, but they're wanting you to consume them, and then they, like buy into them or feed them, then they will serve you. And so you have to, I don't know, I'm still hit or miss on the scheduler. I think in theory it sounds really good. And I think in some places, if you've mastered the platforms, I mean, Scott, you've been doing this for so long, and some of those platforms have been around for a while. But if you're someone who's just trying to get your legs under you for social media, I think you would actually probably suck out more time using a scheduler and trying to keep up with all the platforms, as opposed, I mean, I don't know. You can push back with me on that. What do you?
No. I think it has its time and place for sure. Like even in the Imaginary community, I'm using Buffer for certain things, but then certain things I'm scheduling within the Facebook feed, its own feature, its own scheduling feature. It has, each. There's a time and place for instant posting. There's a time and place for using the platform scheduler, depending on what it is. And there's a time and place for a third-party scheduler. So for example, in the community, every Monday we have a workflows post. Every Tuesday is an edits Tuesday. Thursdays are photo tips Thursday, and Fridays are show off Fridays. I can schedule those ahead of time, week by week, and not have to think about it. But there's also the on-the-fly stuff, which I have to do. So I was just at this coffee meetup, and I shared a video. It has to be on the fly. It's not something you can pre-do. But I also want to say, I did say, on Buffer, for example, you could post to here, all these different places. I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you need to use every platform. Just like what you said, you got to be selective. But I'm just saying the option's there, and you could say, it goes here at this day and time on TikTok because that's the day and time that I'm seeing success on TikTok. Or, everything could have its own scheduled times, right?
Yeah. And I think where to start with, oftentimes, at least for myself, you end up seeking out a solution like a scheduler because you're feeling frustrated. You're feeling on this content hamster wheel almost, right? You're like, I heard Scott and Rachel say, batch do it all. And then I just want the system to run with it. You got to see, is it actually saving you time? Is it actually being effective? Or else you're literally just adding to the noise that's out there. I would rather you not use a scheduler if you could be very intentional in posting 3 days a week versus putting 7 days a week of mass out there that's not resonating with your potential clients. Like it's a waste, really.
So I think this is still Kelly.
It is
who's
Kelly.
Who's not linking her restream. So does Buffer schedule Reels and TikTok? So I think, don't quote me on this, I'd have to double check Buffer. I think it is scheduling Reels if you set it to, and depending on the plan. TikTok is brand new to Buffer, and I think it's scheduling regular, or right now it's doing reminders on TikTok. So you schedule it ahead of time, and then like what it used to do for Instagram, it'll prompt you, and then you just, with one tap, it opens TikTok pre-filled and ready to go.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. Are you going to the next point? Can I say one more thing on social media?
Go for it.
I'm going to slide the legal stuff in here. So, I mean, we're talking Reels and TikTok, especially for Instagram. Instagram is a jealous mistress, and she wants you to use freaking Reels, and she will serve you very well. Now, here's the downfall. Is obviously legal. We want to make sure that we're using audio that has been approved through whatever platform it is, whether it's TikToks or Reels. And I would even probably go a step further because, we're kind of talking a little bit here about repurposing the content. You want to batch create it and try to use it as much as possible. We've already talked about the downfall of what it could be. But like, for example, if you're going to do top 10 tips to booking a destination wedding photographer, and you're going to do like a whole series, right? You're going to do one tip per video. Which I would highly recommend, to have your face in front of your clients, not just your work, but also educating them, showing them that you're an expert. you want to be mindful of being able to repurpose. Kind of already gave the difference between like TikTok can go up to 3 minutes, but Reels can only do 60 seconds or vice versa. But definitely don't fall into the trap of using I know all these TikTok and Reels coaches and posts and say, oh, you got to use the trending audio, but we're starting to see some of this. We want to be very mindful that when you're going to use audio, so outside of just your voice, if you're going to use audio, making sure that it is approved in the platform, because it's just like our photographs. We don't want someone who doesn't have permission going and utilizing it and for commercial gain, especially, right? And so same thing here when it comes to music, and we just have to be very careful of that. And so just be mindful. And I know it sucks because I'll find a trending audio that I want to use, and then I'm like, what the heck? Like, I can't find it like natively in the app. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to use it then. I hate it. But, the reality is, I think the big thing when it comes to infringement things, you don't have to be a big account. You don't have to be a big name. There's two major companies, ASCAP and BMI, that hold the ownership or licenses, and they do the management of some of the biggest songs out there, so the trendiest songs that are happening, and they don't care if you are making money or not. They don't care if you have one client or not, or 1,000 clients, if they stumble upon it. And the thing is, what's so funny is I've defended clients who have come to me after the fact, and they maybe had played it in like a wedding venue without licensing, and they ended up getting caught. Now those agents from these, representatives from these companies don't even have to go out. They just have to log on to your TikToks and Reels to catch you. So just be mindful of the audio that you're using on anything. Same with images. I feel like that goes without saying here. We should always have proper licensing, but watch for that if you're getting into the Reels TikTok game.
If you watch Jimmy Fallon, right? So he does these games. He just did one with Lin-Manuel Miranda where it was like guess the Disney song, but it was literally 1 second from the entire song, and they had to guess what it was. There's a reason why they do it 1 second, because I think, from what I understand, legally, it's such a little amount of time that they can't legally get busted for using the song.
Jimmy Fallon could get a license for that, though. They've got
he could.
money, especially with having that guest on. We don't talk about Bruno.
Exactly. He actually got one song wrong. Lin-Manuel Miranda did not guess one song that he wrote for that movie.
I think I saw the headline on that. That's so funny.
Yeah. Okay, so
before we move on from that, this is because I just did a TikTok and Reel about our clients wanting to keep photographs private, and I mentioned, declining model release is not always enough. Maybe your clients want a little bit more, so doing like privacy of photographs, it's like an NDA. There was an article going around about how he basically had to tell his elementary age kids when he was creating the song "We Don't Talk About Bruno." Now that's in my head again, not to go to school and sing it because he had an NDA with Disney and didn't want to inadvertently get in trouble while he was creating the song. So I just thought it was a fun little tidbit.
Yeah. So at the coffee meetup that I was just at, one of the topics that came up in the discussion was album sales. You want to talk about a time suck, right? I'm adding this to our list because this actually came up today. So I might, depending on timing, we might have to remove one of the others from the list, or we just get to it. But album sales. So the topic was, I'm a wedding photographer with 55 weddings a year. I'm one person. I might have a second shooter sometimes. How do I have time for album sales? And the solution was hire somebody, either a part-time person or a full-time person, or outsource it, but you're better off hiring internally. Train them on how you sell albums and get them to handle your sales. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think in theory, it sounds really good. That some of that might be really foreign to those that, you're just in a place you're like, I can't even get my own head around stuff. How do I even get to that? To that stage. So I understand that. I think that's a good goal to have if you're someone who's completely overwhelmed. If you feel a little bit more comfortable with the idea, are you asking me from the legal side or the time side? I can talk to both. One of the things that I had on my list was talking about your standard operating procedures in your business, right? We write ours out because it's a good way to see where your inefficiencies are, where your time sucks are. And then we put them on Monday boards so that we can track them. And it's also nice because if you onboard someone new, so do this for yourself, you write out what your entire album sales and album design process is, or whatever you're hiring for. Actually, you should do it for all your processes in your business to identify time sucks. But you write it out, you fine tune it, then you already have it. It makes it so. I think one of the big things when you're looking at outsourcing from an admin perspective, and I find myself saying this, I probably even said it today, I'll just do it myself. Well, that I'll do it myself. I don't have time to create the SOP. I don't have time to train someone. You do that so many times, you might as well have sat down and trained someone, from the very beginning. And so I think administratively, making sure you have the processes all outlined. For us, I do a lot of recording of our workflows of different things. So one and done, obviously, until we adjust it in the future. But then we have a library. So when people come on board, do you want me to jump into legal on that, or do you have anything?
Well, I just want to say that, so what you just said, you have recordings of a lot of these, right? So that's something that you could do. If you have an album sales virtual call, record it. That's a way you can document the process. Or if you're going to be onboarding somebody to your company, literally have them sit in on it and they can document it for you, which could then help, that process in the future as well. So, and actually Mike Zawatsky, who was one of the people who offered advice at the coffee meetup today, he actually shared that he has his, basically his office manager who has been documenting processes and taking over a lot of these tasks for him. And it's just, that's one of the things you could do.
Yeah, I know, because like hiring people, I've said this before, my team's on here watching, this is not a foreign thing that I'm going to say, is that life would be easier without people, or business would be easier, right? Especially when it comes to outsourcing and managing and all that, but it also would be harder without them as well. So I think setting yourself up for success, one of the things that I've tried to learn as a manager and a leader in my different businesses, because I've got a couple different things, is you have an idea in your mind what you want. And if you're wanting that continuity of that experience for your clients, you've got to take the time. You got to slow down and not get into the whole, well, I'll just do it myself, because you're never going to get to the, leveraging and growing point. But you want to make sure that you're having continuity of like messaging, of the process, of all of that. And documentation is so incredibly important. That was probably one of the things that I've done. And I still fall into this. When things get busy, you're like, oh, I don't want to take another hour to record on this. I'm just going to do it. And it's easy to fall into that when things are busy. But look at how many hours you would save and time you would get back, and it's not like you have to justify the savings of that hours. Maybe you need the hours for family. Maybe you just want to lay around and eat bonbons. Who cares? You're the business owner, right? Who cares what the motivation is? I mean, I do care what the motivation is, but like, you don't feel like you have to have some like earth-shattering reason to bring someone in. Simply feeling frustrated or simply wanting to grow is enough.
That's a good segue into the next time suck.
Wait. Before we go on, I gotta do the little legal thing. Okay. So anybody that you're hiring in your business, contractor or employee status, make sure you have them always sign an intellectual, What?
Contract.
Contract. Yes. So make sure you always have them sign over intellectual property acknowledgement of whatever they're helping to create. So if they're doing album design or editing, things like that. And especially if they're going to help you with sales, they're having access to, client interfacing. You want like non-solicitation type agreements, confidentiality, that sort of stuff. Yes, we have a whole bundle at TheLawTog, or else you can just take a look at the description, talk to a local attorney. But this is one of the things, you never have an issue to have an issue. This is one of those areas. So if you're already freaking out about outsourcing or bringing someone in and hiring, that is not an area to slack on the legal stuff. Get that taken care of, because it helps to set the expectations and saves you time. See, I pulled it right back around.
Okay, so this was a good segue into the next time suck, which is going to be near and dear to all Imaginers' hearts, and that is photo editing. So, wedding photographers, they come away with 4,000, 6,000 in some cases, depending on, there's a lot of Indian weddings, which are sometimes 4 days long. You could be walking away with 12,000 photos. I love those weddings, and, that's a lot of editing to do, right? So the more obvious method of freeing up that time is to use Imagine AI, and have us edit for you in your style. So if for those watching on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, wherever, and you're not familiar with Imagine AI, we learn how you edit in Lightroom, and we create an AI profile based on your editing style, and then in the future, we edit your photos for you, and we basically inject the edits directly into Lightroom, and they come out the way you would have edited it. And it's saving photographers like 70% of time, sometimes 80, sometimes 90. Everybody's different. And we keep learning about your editing style. So that's one way to handle the time suck of photo editing. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I had noted down, so this is a good crossover, is we talked about processes a little bit, but writing out your workflow and sticking to the workflow, not jumping around, like working very methodically. It'll help you have a sense of control over everything. But then you'll know, like, you stick in your workflow on Thursdays, I'm going to send all of my stuff, to run for you guys to run through, or as soon as I upload, I don't know, however your workflow looks, I think is just SOP, stick in the editing. I don't really have much more than that, just because honestly, it's so incredible, and they're not paying me to say this, but it's so incredible the way you can upload and it literally does the work for you. And there's very little adjustments that you have to make after. Like, where the hell were you guys when I was doing weddings?
It really is amazing. Okay, we don't need to harp on editing too much, but of course I had to include it.
Of course.
So the next one on my list is blogging. Now, I have been blogging since 2004.
That's how we met. You and I met through blogging.
Yep. And I've been doing it very consistently since 2004. And so I've got strategies that I've used for my business, but blogging is a huge time suck. Mm-hmm. And a lot of photographers don't look at themselves as writers. And it makes it even more scarier. Mm-hmm. It makes it more difficult for them and less attractive for them to blog. So any advice that you could share about freeing up time from blogging, even though it's sort of a must-do for businesses?
That's what I was about to say is, guess what? The blog's not about you. And I say that with love, right? I don't care if you don't like writing. You need it. We were talking about social media and advertising earlier. You have to look at everything you're doing on the internet as a digital business card. And think about it this way. We are such a unique business in that physical assets, our visual assets, are our physical product, right? So most businesses have visual assets. They have Instagram, they have Twitter, all those things. They're putting photos up, but they're not selling photos. You are selling photos. So it's even more important, and I know the experience, all that other too, but at the end of the day, the clients walk away with photographs. And so if you're not blogging, you are missing so much opportunity. Not only is it that you could get good search engine optimization, so that's an advertising stream. You're able to very target to clients through like email and directly link them to blog. I want you guys to really consider like your website and your blog as your real estate. In fact, It's so funny because I just read an article yesterday about, and I'm sure you guys have heard this from other people too, but that you should, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, and you definitely don't want to put them in the Facebook, Instagram, social media basket. So if you are micro blogging by doing captions with photos over on Instagram, why are you not also putting them on your blog? Because the article that I read yesterday, there's a very real chance in Europe. So if you're a Europe-based photographer, there's talks that the Facebook may pull out from there because of data privacy and all this sort of stuff. Why would you don't want to, and everything could be gone, poof. So not only do you not want to invest all this time, suck your time away into platforms that you don't own and control, you should be doing this also on your blog, on your website for the same reasons. And you're probably already blogging and don't even realize that you're just doing it in captions on Instagram.
Yeah. I think for the past 10 years, as you know, I worked for a different company in the photo industry, and for just about 10 years, a lot of the topics that I talked about with people were about content ownership because I was literally living and breathing that websites, photography websites for almost 10 years. So this is has been very close to my heart for a very long time. And unfortunately, at Imagine AI, we witnessed content ownership at its finest when Instagram decided to take the Imagine AI Instagram profile down for a month. And then we got it back, but it's
but a month.
A month. Yeah.
Yeah.
A month of no Instagram, which we've been, building up and sharing great content at, and then poof, it was gone like that. So, so I just want to share that there's two recommendations that I can give as far as photographers who don't want to blog themselves. Three recommendations rather for photographers who don't want to blog themselves, but understand the importance and want to do it. One is hire literature major, a writing major from college who wants work and will take whatever you want, whatever you'll pay them, pay them well, but hire a college student who wants the experience, who wants to work, right? One, it's easy. Just go to a college and say, I'm looking to hire, right? Two, find an outsourced writer. There's tons of websites out there of individuals who write content for whoever, right? And there's websites where you can go and just look at a pool of writers and see examples, see where they're from, see their prices. And three, hire a photography blogger. There are companies in the industry who focus only on writing content for your photography blogs. So three choices, basically at different pricing levels. And, you never have, if you get a college student to just sit with you for an hour and pull information from your head, they will write it for you. Same with these other people.
And something is better than nothing. As long as it's quality, right? We don't want to just put junk, but something is better than nothing. However, you're talking to the people, which is great, that are convinced they need to blog. There's some people probably listening and going, I know it's a time suck. I didn't get any value from it. Well, let me tell you this, and I already dropped this nugget earlier, and I know I talk fast, but we're not just selling. I know I did just say we're selling photographs, but really in marketing, that's the end product. But in marketing, when we're marketing and advertising ourselves, we're selling ourselves as a professional and as an authority. And so how do you do that? Education. The example I gave earlier was like batch creating the content of like 10 TikToks with 10 tips for how to book or find a destination wedding photographer. Guide your people, use content like that. So you can do, photographs, put the photographs on display, all that great stuff, but you also should drill down. Part of your content strategy is positioning yourself as an authority. And this is where I start. What are the top 10 questions that clients have when they come to you? Boom.
Yep.
You got 10 blog posts right there. 11 if you do a roundup.
Wait, is there a boom graphic in here? No, there's no boom graphic. Oh man, that would be nice.
But honestly, it's true. And the thing is, I think it was so incredibly important, going back to what you said about Instagram, is you own the website for the most part, right? You own the content. Hopefully you've got backups and all that sort of stuff, but that's your real estate that you're building your house on. You're just renting it over at Instagram and Facebook, and the Z could take it away at any time.
Yep. I will say as well, though, if you are hosting your website on a platform that you also don't have 100% control over, you also are renting, in theory, as well. A lot of the platforms have very strict policies, especially as you start leaning towards boudoir, which you've done
That's
a bunch
our
of TikToks on.
This month.
Yeah. So there's a fine line even with websites. You got to be careful about, depending on where your website is and the topics you're sharing. But yes, you are renting on social media, basically.
You have a bit more control on a website, even though you are subject to the terms. You really within that, you set the rules.
Yeah.
He sets the rules on everything else. I'm not saying his full name since we're streaming on Facebook because I don't want my stuff shut down.
Yeah. So there's a related time suck to this, and that is general copywriting, right? So not necessarily blog content, but your about page, your contact page, your wedding portfolio page, your family page, the actual content that is marketing your services on an individual, your partner, you do a page, a landing page about a venue that you photograph a lot at with your weddings. And, for SEO purposes, you want that to be written really well. So there's copywriting. So my advice is sort of similar to blogging, is find a copywriter, not a blogger, but somebody who understands marketing copy and everything that goes into it.
So I would let's look at it, not just the time it would take for you to write your own copy. So write the own text in your messaging, but the lost clients and opportunities that you could have had in the time that your shoddy copy was up into the world. And I say this as someone who I'm fine tuning it, but out of everything we've talked about, like, messaging is so incredibly key. I know I just said a little bit ago, blog, something's better than nothing, but for full maximum return of your time of like blogging or even having a website or putting your captions on Instagram, you have to have the proper messaging, and it's got to be communicating and resonating in order to convert people. So I'm going to get on a soapbox for a second, because sometimes, and it's really easy to see in Facebook groups in the photography industry, we see it in TheLawTog, we see it in other groups. Oh, my clients, it's my pricing, it's my pricing, it's my pricing. Your pricing often is not the problem. Often it's one of a few things. It's either you're not marketing in the right area. We already talked about that with social media, fine-tuning and getting on the platforms of where your potential clients actually are. Or two, it's the messaging. If it's not resonating and building up their buyer's confidence and making those connections, you are effectively sucking away all your time and losing opportunities. So yeah, I say all that to say, we probably should have started with number one, maybe, but learning how to write copy and write copy very well. I struggle in this, and I'm almost 20 years in different businesses. Like, it's very difficult, and it's not just throwing words on a page. So put that on a to-do list and a goal to get into your business. Because also, once you nail down, so like, you want to start with who you're serving, what you're serving, blah, 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 all that great stuff. Once you get a really good set of like copywriting, landing, your website page, your about page, all of that, you can then repurpose and utilize that going forward. But having a good expert structure to begin with will save you so much time later.
Yeah, that's for sure. So the last that was on my list is lead nurturing and booking. This is a hard one because there's tools to help with it, but there's so much involved. You'd think, okay, lead nurturing and booking, sure. Like, it looks like it looks this big, right? In the puzzle, in the big picture, right? But really, there's a lot that goes into just that. So lead nurturing, the process of, you get this lead, you're sending out emails. A lot of photographers are still sending emails manually, but there's tools that you could, CRMs, customer relationship management tools, that you could, set up an automated process, and all you got to do is change the label of a person, and then it triggers a whole bunch of events and so on. So that's like one way to start handling lead nurturing, is getting the right tool, right? Booking, instead of going back and forth in a whole bunch of emails, it's set up a Calendly, set up a Zcal, set up a schedule once, whatever the tool is. Some CRMs have it built in as well, and make it so the client can book based on what's available in your calendar.
One thing I was going to say with that I enjoy, like, about Dubsado and some of the other systems, is that they put the entire onboarding process together on one click. Like, you can send out the scheduler, and it will force the client to go, or potential client to go through paying their initial non-refundable payment to reserve their spot, signing their contract, that you get from the TheLawTog. And then also scheduling the date. So you're not doing back and forth. It's not and it doesn't allow them to block off the date and it blocked on the calendar until they've done the other steps. So that's great. You're not having to do follow-ups and back and forth. It can do reminders for you. Other systems do it too. But yeah, no, I think that's a huge onboarding of clients is a huge time suck. And it's keeping you from being able to do the other things you want to do when there's, I was giggling when you were talking because I was just thinking about when you and I first met in the industry, date ourselves here a little bit, we didn't really have it. Now you throw
none of it existed. Yeah.
No, I mean, I remember having to cobble together. I had mock form, which I don't even know if that's even still a thing, embedded in WordPress. Then I had to redirect to a PayPal link that then I had to manually send. I don't even think Calendly existed. I'm like, well, if you're not using it, you're missing the boat.
Yeah. It really is amazing. I mean, like, look, we're live streaming right now using one tool and going out to 5 different locations, and this was impossible. I mean, it was possible to do 15 years ago, whatever it was, but it was way harder, and you had to use Skype, which I'm so glad I haven't opened that in a long time. So, yeah. It looks like Kelly says mock form still exists.
Which they fine. I mean, it works, but I just think for what photographers specific, our industry has so many available to us. So there's really no reason. And it's a cost of doing business. I know you don't want to spend the money, but the time it takes for you to go, not even the time it would take. So we're talking about time sucks, but also think about friction points for clients. Like, for example, if I have to chase you down as a client to book you, do this back and forth, I'm going to get frustrated in the process. And again, oftentimes it doesn't have anything to do with your pricing. It's your your messaging is wrong. Or if I'm excited to book you and I have to play 500 questions, contract solves that for you. If I have to chase you to pay you, it's going to erode the buyer's confidence. And oftentimes, especially when there's legal issues, but just client issues in general, it's not just one big issue that happened. It's a lot of little ones that eroded the confidence along the way. And who knew that just your onboarding process and the back and forth, especially now, this day when everything, consumers want things to be so instantaneous. They don't want to have to sit here and wait for you to email and during your office hours and this and that. There's automated processes. So work with and build the client confidence and have an automated system do it for you.
Yeah. So were there any that you thought of that you wanted to bring up that I made out of? Oh,
I got my notes.
This live stream is not sponsored by PopSocket.
oh my gosh. Yeah, I have to. I can't even keep my head on straight. This thing, I know my phone will always go with me somewhere. Batch editing was on there. We talked about workflows. That was on there. One of the things that and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, it was this idea of constantly having to repeat things to clients. So I like having a rule of 3 that for really important things like how to get booked or what to wear to session or how to use their photographs once you deliver the digital. So you want to at least inform them at least 3 times. And contract is just one piece of that. Other is like your email communication, walking them through the process. And you talked about automation on that. Having it on your website and drafted with good copy in such a way. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to repeat everything in your workflow. I know everything is important in the process, but really focusing in on, and where I would start is because we already talking about doing this to help create your blogs and your social media content, is what are your we keep a running list of client questions because it is a time suck having to respond to the exact same question over and over. And if all clients are having that exact same question, the common denominator is me and my mechanisms of communication. So I need to look internally and see, where are we missing the boat here? Is it an education piece? Is it I need to do 5 touch points on this versus 3 times? But yeah, I think having to be reactive to client questions is, again, we talk about buyer's confidence, helps to erode their buyer's confidence, but that's the kind of time suck you can't anticipate for, but you're a fool once you see it happening, not remedying it.
Yeah, this is something that all businesses really should be
Mhm.
thinking about, no matter whether they're photographers or somebody else. I mean,
Mhm.
we've had a knowledge, we call it the knowledge center. It's basically a frequently asked questions area on the Imagine AI site, and we are moving our support from just email tickets to Zendesk, which I think you use Zendesk, don't you, or Help Scout, or one of
Help
those?
Scout.
Help Scout. So, I mean, they're the same thing, basically. And what we're doing is we're actually moving our knowledge center to Zendesk as well, because now we can embed that, and not only can people open tickets right from the website, but they can browse the knowledge center and possibly get their answer before they send us an email. So that's like same sort of concept. If the questions keep coming in, add it to the knowledge center so that the question can be answered ahead of time. But also for those photographers who don't yet have a CRM and they're still using just like Gmail, right? For example, Gmail has templates where you can actually create your replies answering common questions without having to type it. And so this is what I do, because my photography business is a part-time professional photography business. I don't need a CRM for mine. So I've got a bunch of templates where I have, a whole bunch of underlines where I got to fill in the gaps, basically. And that's it. And it's, it takes me, 10 seconds to reply to an email if I need to versus, drafting it one by one.
Not only does it save you time, but it's giving the same consistent service across the board.
Yeah.
You don't forget something. All clients are getting the same messaging, and you're better able to track what's working and what's not. Whereas if you're handwriting it each time, you're losing time there, but then you're also less able to see where the friction points for onboarding clients are and stuff like that. It's not always your pricing. I've said that like 500 times, because poor pricing gets to be the scapegoat all the time, when often it's really just lack of knowledge, that we haven't given that knowledge to our clients so they can make the decision to book.
But sometimes it is pricing.
And very rarely. No, I will. I mean, and if it is pricing issue, where should you look first? Not at the pricing necessarily. You look at, am I on the wrong platform? Am I over here on Twitter trying to attract the person who's all over on Instagram, or vice versa? Yeah. Right. So.
My problem with from where I live is there's a lot of those. Anybody have advice for a cheap photographer, right? So I live in that area. I mean, most of us do. Most of us do, yeah. Yeah, but when you look at like in the Facebook group, I get tagged in it when that's not who I want as my client.
I'll tell you what. So when my husband was active duty and I was in the throes of doing photography, I would cringe sometimes when I would get tagged in the military-based groups, because I was like, they're not going to spend $3,000 on headshots or whatever, right? And I mean, they might, because what would happen was, just because the people commenting may not have been, like the potential clients commenting may not have been my potential clients, I would get inquiries from those that were my potential client watching. So I'm not saying like put your efforts into, going there, because that was very clearly that the bulk of the people in those groups are not necessarily going to be my people, but it wasn't a lost cause. I got clients that way.
So. Awesome. Yeah. Any others that you want to bring up before we wrap this up?
I think on the topic of like top client questions, so friction points for your clients, and we talked about having the workflow, writing out like a knowledge center, frequently asked questions. I think another thing is also not chasing the contract edits. Had to throw the legal stuff in here, but it really is important. Like contracts, and I say this not just as a lawyer, contracts really are an expectation setting tool. It should mirror your workflow. It should be basically hand-holding your client through the process. But there's always questions. So we already talked about keeping a running list of top questions from clients. And so in partnership with that, with your contracts, highly recommend doing like a yearly evaluation with your lawyer, right? You don't want to wait till there's an issue. You want to be proactive for it. And if you haven't been able to remedy all the client questions, bring that to your attorney at that time in order for you to be able to get them taken care of. Because maybe it's something that's messaging's not working, et cetera. Maybe it is a legal related thing that you may not necessarily think of. So yeah, I'm just a huge proponent of that. I do them in January for my clients. I just set up a free 15-minute phone call. I see what's going on in their business, and we see if there's anything, has anything changed, because I'm the expert. But they can ask those questions then, and we're able to say, oh yeah, we can fine tune this in the contract, make it clearer for the client or whatever. And we do it yearly, because once you already have an issue and you've already eroded the client confidence, that's when problems really exacerbate, and we don't want that. And that's a time suck and a money suck.
Well said. So this, we're recording. We started this at 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern time. A lot of the people in the community are around the world, and not everybody could watch live. So a lot of people were asking, "Is this going to be recorded?" Yes, it's recorded. It will be available afterwards. So I definitely want to share. Don't worry, you can watch this later. But if you have any questions for Rachel, she's in the community. She is also available through her websites. And I can tell you, she is a person who wants to help others. So, don't hesitate to comment. Don't hesitate to ask questions. And if she's also a very busy person. Rachel's a very busy person. So,
I love helping. That is the goal
yes.
of my businesses. And we also have our group as well. So if you have any questions, like myself or my team, more than happy to help. That's what we're here for.
Yes. So definitely ask questions if you have them. And if you have enjoyed this live stream with Rachel Brenke and would like to know when the next live stream is happening, then please know that you are invited to be part of the bigger conversation. Join the Imagine AI community. Just go to imagine-ai.com/community. You can see that up on the screen right now. And by joining the community, you get access to exclusive conversations, live events. Now we're starting to do in-person live events, Q&As with the Imagine AI founders, and so much more. So we do hope to see you there. Again, that's imagine-ai.com/community. Thank you, Rachel. I'm so happy that we were able to get you on, and we were talking about such an important topic in the photography industry. And you are somebody who has lots of insights, and a really good way to bring it back to legal, which is great. Which is also a very important topic. And like websites, for example, it's not a fun topic, but it's a topic that has to be discussed. So I'm glad we were to cover what the heck is a couple?
Well, we did. We coupled the time suck and legal stuff together. Well, we covered it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad we covered a lot of different things. And it's always fun chatting with you and getting to see you face to face. And we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Bye guys. Have a